All right, so last example. I'm trying to go through kind of each case that you might see so that you have something to refer back to. So when you all are doing your homework, or the work, I should say, I'm counting for points, go back and kind of do it as and go back to this video and then kind of find the problem that's similar because they're going to be very similar, the problems I want you to the ones that we're doing now. Okay. All right. Last one, number 5. So this is very similar to what we just did an example for, where our denominators are a little funky. So finding our LCD, we need to put a little bit of work into this first. Okay. So I'm actually going to take the two fractions and I'm going to write the denominators in factored form. So instead of 4x minus 20, let's factor out a 4, and I'm left with x minus 5. Okay? Now our other fraction in the denominator, x squared minus 8x plus 15, that in factored form. So we have what multiplies together to give us 15 and adds to give us a negative 8. Well, that would be a minus 5 and a minus 3. Now, it is no coincidence, once again, that in this case, they do already have a factor of the denominator that is the same. So, but we can't, remember, you're not taking things away. We have to write both of these fractions with the same exact denominator. So if you can tell, the first fraction has 4 times x minus 5, and the second fraction has x minus 5 times x minus 3. So we know our LCD isn't going to involve an x minus 5. Well, the first fraction has 4, so we're going to have to multiply the second fraction by 4. And the second fraction has x minus 3. Well, we need the first fraction's denominator to have an x minus 3. So this ultimately, sorry people, this ultimately is going to be our LCD. Okay? All right, so we're going to multiply this first fraction by an x minus 3 over an x minus 3. And what that's going to allow us to do is on the top, we're going to get 2 times the quantity of x minus 3. And our denominator would be 4 times x minus 5 times x minus 3. I know it's a mouthful and it's all of that. You can't cancel anything because we're just writing that fraction. We haven't even done anything yet as far as we have to now add this to the other fraction, and the whole idea is to have a common denominator. So for our second fraction, we're going to multiply this by, it already has the x minus 5, so we need to multiply by 4 over 4. So the numerator would be 4 times x minus 6 all over 4 times x minus 5 times x minus 3. So what we need to do now is we actually have to add the top. So what I'm going to do is some distributing here first on the numerator. So I'm going to have 2x minus 6, this plus sign, 4 times x, and then I'm going to get minus 24. All of that I was allowed to add or put together at the top because I have the same denominator for both fractions. Okay, now let's actually add the top. So we have 2x plus 4x, which is 6x, and a minus 6 and a minus 24 would be minus 30. So what we have is I'm going to write that over my common denominator. Okay, so we actually did the addition. So that's the nice thing about all this is we have all this addition. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to factor out a 6 from the numerator. So I have 6 times x minus 5 all over 4, which is still our same denominator that we started with, our LCD. Okay, now let's see if anything will cancel. So our x minus 5's cancel, and then 6 and 4, 2 will go into both of them. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. So our final answer would be 3 all over 2 times the quantity of x minus 3. Okay, so that gives you a little bit of help in making sure that you can work with denominators that are not the same.